to Tijuana, get drunk, you know, and then pick up some chicks, and that's what we did all the time, you know. And if we picked up one, we shared, you know. Well, I'm 20 years old, you know.
Exactly, you're 20 years old with money and spare time.
Yeah, so we go to Tijuana and then get drunk and stuff like that, and everywhere we went, you know, we just partied all the time. And then when I came to New York, it was basically I lived with McHugh, and we were stoned every night. We just smoked every night. Mike, don't tell, don't write it, don't write that. I mean, for Mike McHugh. So in New York, I hung around with Greshner and Murdoch and McHugh, the four of us, because we're singles. We're single, you know. And basically, we just smoked, and everybody smoked on the team. Everybody. We had parties, everybody was stoned. I mean, don't tell.
You just did.
I just did. But everybody was smoking, you know, and we had parties with there was hash in the cake, and everybody was, even Fergie was stoned, and Jean-Guy Talbot was stoned. They didn't even know they were stoned because they ate the cake, you know.
All right, sorry, right here.
What was it like to play in New York with John Ferguson?
He was clueless. Fergie was he didn't have a clue what he was doing. When the season started, he comes with like a book, like pages, like pages.
Yeah, it was like he photocopied it.
Photocopied a book, and he gave it to us. And I walked out of the room. I threw it in the garbage. I mean, he says, read that. And then when we practiced, like 3-on-2, 2-on-1, 1-on-1, scrimmage. There was no system, nothing. And he didn't have a clue. He got mad behind the bench, screamed. That's it. But the guy didn't have a clue.
Those were the Rangers?
Rangers, yeah.
I think
and Talbot, Jean-Guy Talbot, I used to call him rent-a-coach. And he would come in the room, he would say, come on, use guy, instead of you guys. Come on, use guy. And then I would make fun of him. I would say, come on, use guy. He hated me. In practice, he always shot for my head.
But you said his son would play with you guys too, right?
Yeah. Some morning I come to practice. I had partied all night. Come to practice like drunk or stoned, you know, and I couldn't even stop his son.
All right, Len, you had a question there?
Yeah, I had a question. Once you hit New York and WHA, obviously the partying was quite significant. What about in Oshawa? Was there anything like that going on while you were in junior?
In Oshawa, no, not so much. We had parties, like we used to party once a week, but not so much. You don't know if you remember Bob Stewart?
Oh, yeah.
Bob Kelly? Yeah, Bob Kelly was my roomie for the first part of the year. Then I moved with Bob Stewart, and that's Bob Stewart showed me how to drink.
But you're also in high school, so you don't have the money. You don't always.
No,
have the
I went to
means.
high school one day.
Right. Okay. You should have been in high school. All right, Eric, you had a question there?
Were you still, because I remember Les Binkley was the goalie when this happened. Were you still with the Toros when Evel Knievel did the shootout and
Yeah, but
there with,
yeah,
were there any
Binkley.
interesting stories about that?
Yeah, Binkley was in net
Yeah.
for that night,
I
and
remember that Binkley
But
was
weren't
the
you
goalie.
supposed to be in that?
yeah, but I don't know what happened. I got late. I was late for the game, I think.
It happens. You
I
know.
mean, did Evel Knievel, was he around? Was anything happen? Because, you know, I was a kid at the time, and Evel Knievel was like, oh, it was like everybody was so into all that stuff.
I don't know. I didn't really talk to him. He was more of a bullshitter.
Yeah,
You know.
I'm sure.
And he could hardly skate.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember he could hardly skate.
No,
But I thought he played with
there were stories that he
the Eastern
Yeah,
League
he
somewhere.
claimed to play. but I'm
No,
not sure how
no.
much was
He
true.
could hardly skate.
Former traveling team, their game reports of his name.
But that guy could. I remember he could hardly skate.
Yeah, I remember that too.
You know, and Binkley let him score.
He was going to scored one.
Binkley let Gretzky score too, right? Gretzky was one of those
Yeah.
kids that came down
Yeah,
and
yeah.
did the.
Yeah.
So one of the guys I talked to was like the PR guy for the Toros, Pete McCaskill, and so he's telling some of those stories, and it just adds a different perspective to all the goofiness that they had to do for the WHA. Sorry, Brenda, you had one question at the back?
In the book, you talk about your brother singing the national anthem at some of the games. How did that come about?
Oh, my brother was like a tenor,
Tanner.
yeah. And he came to the game, and the first game, national anthem, and he's in the back with some of my friends, and he's singing, and you can hear him through the arena, and everybody's like, and I'm in net angle. Then his voice was so strong you could hear him through the rink, and so they invited him every game from then on. They invited him at center ice to sing.
That's what. There's a picture of him in there too from the Generals, and it talks to this organization, the Society for International Hockey Research, because Wayne Kewen was at the meeting in Kingston, and I started talking to him, and he turns out to be like an Oshawa Generals historian. So he has all kinds of stuff. So we were able to get some really neat pictures. He was at like one of those high school parties, and there's Gilles sitting there with his guitar. We found some unique stuff, and that's why an organization like this is great and important. Frank?
Yeah. You mentioned Peter Mahovlich. His nephew is my grandson's coach.
Frank Mahovlich.
Frank Mahovlich.
Well,
I played with Frank.
Frank Mahovlich's son is my grandson's coach in Leaside. What was he like?
I remember Frank Mahovlich on the sidewalk signing autographs. He would sign like for 15, 20 minutes. And he would stand.
Quiet guy too.
Yeah, he would stand there. If there were 100 people, he would sign 100 people. Just like Bobby Hall. Just these guys would stand there, and sign. It took 2 hours. They would sign 2 hours. Not like today, Today's player, you need to go through the agent. You have to pay $100. And they only make $5 million a year, so they need the money. And I remember in Russia, Bobby Hall would stand on the corner there, and he would sign for 45 minutes. The Russians, they knew Gordie Howe and Bobby Hall, and we would sit in the bus and wait for 45 minutes. And Tom Webster, he didn't like Bobby Hall, so one day he told the bus drivers to go to the hotel, and he left. Like Gordie would sign for 10 minutes, get in the bus. But Bobby would be there for 45 minutes, and we just sat there. I didn't care. But Tom Webster didn't really like Bobby Hall, so he told the bus driver to get back to the hotel. We went back to the hotel, and Bobby Hall just stayed there. I don't know how he got back, but that's...
So this is the 1974 Summit Series. He was with the WHA. Gilles never played a game in Russia, but he was in Sweden.
I was asked to play the fifth game in Russia by Billy Harrison, was my coach in Toronto. But what happened is he called me 2 days before training camp because there was Cheevers and McLeod, and he asked me to come be on the team as a third goalie. Can I swear here?
Yeah, you can swear. It's okay.
So I said okay. So I got to Edmonton like a day before camp, and Bill Hunter calls me in his office. He was the manager of the whole thing, or the Edmonton Oilers and the series there. And he calls me in his office. He says, "I don't like you." He says, "I had long hair, long hair, beard." And he says, "I don't like you." He says, I didn't want you on the team." He says, "It's not my idea." I said, "Fuck you." "Fuck off, asshole." And I just walked out. And Billy Harris, I was going to fly back, and Billy Harris came to me. He says, "Just stay on the team. Just shave your beard, keep your mustache, cut your hair, I said, "Okay, I'll do it for you." But I didn't practice really hard. I was hanging out with Cappy Howe and Mark and Marty, 4 of us, because the team was like Gordie Howe, Backstrom, older guys. So the 4 of us hung around together. So what I did mostly is I didn't practice very hard. I partied a bit, and went out with Cappy, and we went out to different places and stuff. And Cheevers played with a pulled hamstring. And from the 5th to the 8th game, he played with a pulled hamstring because McLeod stung the joint out in Winnipeg. We lost 8-3 because we tied in Quebec 3-3. We beat the Russians in Toronto 4-1. And then the third game in Winnipeg, Billy Harris changed the whole line. He got a lot of pressure, I don't know from who, but he changed the whole lineup. He put McLeod in net, he changed the whole defense score. And then we lost 8-3. That's why we lost the series. But if he had kept the same lineup we had in Toronto and Quebec, we would have beat the Russians. For sure. We had them because we had 4 lines going 20 seconds. And they didn't know what to do. And that's why we lost the series there. And Bobby Hall told me a few years back, I was in Toronto, and Mark Juto, my boss, knows Bobby pretty well. So we picked him up at a house there in Toronto, and Bobby came to the door, no hair. You know, he looked like 88 years old, you know. And I knocked, and he looks at me and said, "Who are you?" I says, "I'm Gilles." "Gilles who?" "Gilles Gratton." Oh, hi, Gilles. And he told me in the car that some of the guys on the team didn't play 100% because they didn't want to get back. They wanted to get back to the NHL. Their agents told them to slow down so that we would lose the series, so they could get back in the NHL. That's what Bobby Hall told me.
But it's believable, for sure. I mean,
That's what he told me.
yeah. Aubrey?
You mentioned Billy Harris. I think you suggested you had respect for him. What about some of the other players that we know? Who were the really good guys, the guys you looked up to in the NHL when you played?
When I played, Roger Bear. You know Roger Bear? Yeah. Roger Bear, Les Binkley, I guess. Yeah, Les Binkley. John Davidson. I really like John Davidson. Roger Bear.
But the thing is, you weren't really a hockey fan growing up, so it's not like you had heroes and dreams of being an NHL player.
No, Dalai Lama didn't play hockey. He was my hero.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, I think that leads into where I was going to ask. Like, you didn't seem to have a passion, even necessarily in junior. Like, how did you get to be at least a junior level goaltender if you didn't have that?
Well, I didn't play my junior B year. I had two concussions. I played like 6 or 7 games. And at that time, we didn't. When I was a kid, we didn't think we were going to play in the NHL. There was only like six teams, so we just played. I just played to kill time. Mostly, what I do in life, I do things to kill time till I die. You know, and that's basically what we do is just kill time till we die. That's what we do, basically. You know, what is life? You just keep busy till you die. That's life, you know. So, I played junior B. I had 2 concussions, and the first one I spent 6 days in the hospital. The first 3 days I couldn't even get up because the guy took a shot, let's say for about 10 feet out in the slot, and there was like, so I got hit right here, and they told me that the puck hit and then just dropped like that, and I spent 6 days in the hospital. On the 4th day I could sit in the bed. I was so like out of it, and why was I saying that? I'm sorry. Oh yeah, and then that summer, after my junior B year, the doctors told me not to play hockey anymore. So I don't care, you know, it's fine with me. So I told my parents, I'm not playing hockey anymore. But Chuck Cato, a Boston scout, came to my home in July, and he said, "I have a contract for you with the Oshawa Generals." I said, "The fuck, contract? Not a tryout, a contract." I said, "I mean, you smoke something or what?" And said, because when I was bantam and midget, we were all Quebec champs in Ville-de-Salle, where I live. We won we were the best team in Quebec for my last year bantam and my only year midget. So these 2 years in bantam, I was picked best goalie in Quebec. And then we played the year midget. So he says, I follow you bantam and midget. He says, and I put my reputation on the line, and I gave you a contract for Oshawa. I said, well, I'll think about it, because I was still dizzy and I felt weak from my concussions. But I called Dan Bouchard, who lived a few streets from my place. You know Dan Bouchard? Yeah. That guy is really a positive guy, you know. So I called Dan. I said, listen, Chuck Cato came to my place, and we all knew Chuck Cato because he was from LaSalle, and Phil Muir was like the first, and then Philmere was there, and then Dan Bouchard and myself. Well, the three of us from LaSalle. Philmere played, and then Dan Bouchard were like 2 years apart, you know. So I said, Chuck Cato came to my place, and he offered me a contract. I says, I weighed like 140 pounds. I was weak. I was like still dizzy spells and stuff. I still have them today. And because I've had about 10 concussions. So he says, I'll train, accept the contracts, I'll train you, and he says you can do it. So, okay, so I called Chuck Cato. I said, okay, I'll sign the contract. I thought to myself, if they don't like me, they kick me out. I'll learn English. I didn't speak English at the time. So I said that I'll learn some English, and if they don't like me, they can kick me out of the team. I don't care. So Dan Bouchard that summer trained me the whole summer. We worked together, and under Mercy Bridge there, throw a ball on the wall and stuff. And then I went to Oshawa. It took like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, because they needed my release. Because the Quebec teams, the junior Quebec teams, didn't invite me. They didn't know me. So it took about 3 weeks to get my release from the Quebec Quebec League, whatever. And then when I was in training camp, I felt really guilty because there was like 12 goalies in camp, and I was on the team. I mean, I had a contract, and I didn't feel really good about it because I thought, the fuck, I didn't do anything. And so I went to Oshawa and I played 3 years. And then when I was drafted, Buffalo offered me $5,000 to sign, 8 and 10, 23. And I told them, I says, I can make more money with my band, because I had a band. I can make more money played in old Montreal, throw an ad on the sidewalk, and I'll make more money. So like, kiss my ass. And then the World Hockey, the next week, World Hockey, Larry Saison, my agent, calls me. He says, Ottawa offers you $20,000 to sign, 25 and 30. I said, okay, I'll go. It seems that hockey, I got into hockey, I don't know how. It's kind of a funny way.
He mentions his agent, and so after the book's published, I heard from the lawyer, Larry Saison, that he wanted to know what we wrote. So this is, you get a little bit worried once the lawyer gets all upset. So he reads it, and he gets back to us and says he enjoyed it, but then he starts telling us stories that maybe I could have included. But as a writer along the way, we made a conscious decision not to include his agent, because no hockey player has a good thing to say about their agent. And we just didn't want to go down that other path. And so in retrospect, maybe I regret not maybe talking to him a little bit, even if we didn't quote them. But it's just that, that's a process that I'd never gone through, writing an autobiography. So I'm, it's something to file away for next time. So, yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I'm interested in what you had to say about the team. For example, you said that you hung out with 3 or 4 guys who were single guys. Does that mean that the rest of the team hung out together? Because all we hear now, they're doing this team. We're all together.
No, there's cliques.
And Ken Dryden said that he spent about 8-10 years playing the field for it. And he said he only had one meaningful conversation with him in that time.
Yeah.
They never saw each other off the ice.
Yeah,
I often think we're getting suckered into this concept of the
Nah.
team.
bullshit. That's bullshit. No, when I played, there was like 3 guys here, 4 guys, 3 and 4. Some guys I may say like a word. I don't even talk the whole year. I beat Stemkowski or Phil Esposito. I did because I had a kind of I wasn't beat the shit out of him, but
Yeah, Espos doesn't come off particularly well in the book, so I know you might find that hard to believe. He's a bit.
Yeah, he was like he was king. He would stay on the ice for 3-4 minutes, like 3-minute shifts, And we were practicing one day, and I really hate to practice in the morning when it's cold. We had a cold arena on Long Island there. We practice in the morning. It's really cold, and I didn't go in the net. I just sent Sotard and Davidson, and I just leaned against the board because I hated it in the morning. And so Esposito comes to me, he says, "Are you playing Saturday?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're not practicing very hard." I said, "I don't need to. So much talent." And
then that to Phil? Yeah.
then he said, well, if you don't play well, we play in Toronto on that Saturday. He said, if you don't play well on Saturday, he says, you're going to hear from me. I said, fuck you. And he kind of went, because nobody talked to him like that. I said, fuck you. Get out of my face or I'll fucking punch you out. And he fucking, just like, turn around, and I just stayed there like the whole practice. I didn't practice, just. After that, in the room, he's trying to suck up to me. Oh, Count. They called me Count in New York. Oh, Count. I said, fuck off. And I said, I was going to go after him, And then Gilbert and Goldsworthy and Gilbert, they held me back, and that was it. But then I used to stay a lot at Rod Gilbert's. So the next day, Gilbert told me we had a meeting last night, Esposito, myself, and the coach, and you're not going to play for the rest of the year. I said, I don't care. And those are the stories after what Fergie asked me a few times to play after that, and I would play with his head. I says, I can't play. I have this injury and I would go in the room like this. I have this injury from my past life, I got stabbed. And Fergie would look at me and go, and then, and in Boston, he asked me to play, and I looked. I says, my moon is not aligned with Jupiter, and it's that night for me, I can't play. And he would just go like, and I walked out of the room. I did that because they told me I wasn't going to play anymore. So that's why I played with his head a bit.
But I think that year in New York cemented your fame or infamy, or however you want to do it. Because if you were doing those same antics and you were still in St. Louis, I don't think we would have heard about it. But Stan Fischler writes about it, and it just starts propagating, right? And everybody hears more about you, and I think that's partly how it lived on. Well,
that's the best thing I ever done is the mask and the crazy stuff. Because how many players I've played in NHL since 1977? Thousands, and you don't remember anybody besides the famous players like Lafleur and Bobby Hull and stuff like that. They remember me because of my crazy stuff and my mask, and I'm glad I did the mask.
So his career ends because he's in New Haven playing at the AHL team, and he does an interview with Alan Abel of the Globe and Mail. So as a lifelong writer, I was so excited I got to talk to Alan Abel, who was the columnist and sports for the Globe and Mail. He doesn't actually end up in the book, I didn't quote him, but he's telling me all the stories. And so one of the neat things, after he got a copy of the book, Alan wrote me a little personal note saying, I didn't really realize that I cost Gilles his career, because he's the one that published the story, or got it in the Globe and Mail, talking about how you said you were imprisoned in New Haven. And so
a well-paid prison, I said.
A well-paid prison. So that was the end of your career because of a quote in the newspaper, essentially.
Yeah, but he emailed me. I emailed him back, and I thanked him for ending my career. I said, don't feel guilty. He says, that was the nicest thing you ever done for me.
So you got paid out and traveled. So.
Well, we had a meeting with Fergie and the owner, whatever, manager, Fergie and some of the lawyers, whatever. We had a meeting with my agent, which was at that time was Larry Rausch, because I fired my agents in Montreal, and they paid me till 1981, so I could travel.
And then you had to get a real job. So.
No, I started working in 1991. Yeah, I traveled for 14 years.
It's an interesting life, for sure. Okay, we're almost out of time. How about one last from Ron here?
What do you think of Don Cherry?
Don Cherry.
You don't know him at all, right?
I've seen him a few times on television. I like him. I think he's funny. I've watched him a bit on television, maybe 3 or 4 times, and I think he's funny. I don't know, he's colorful, funny, and I would say that I like him. Should I like him?
Depends on the point of view.
All right, sorry, I think we got to cut out Len. One
Just
quick
one,
yeah.
because we talked about the first half of his life, but not the other part. So you go to India, you go to various ashrams. I personally want to know, did you ever hook up with such as Sai Baba, and whether that was a good experience?
Sai Baba was not alive when I was there.
At the time that you were there?
He was not alive. I was there in 1980. Well, which one? There's a lot of Sai Baba in India, you know. I was there in 1982, 1984, 1990 in India. I don't know if you know Muktananda. Oh, he was a guru there. Who was the other guy there? I met a few. Well, mostly Muktananda. Where's my memory? Jean Klein. He's dead today. He was a French guru. Muktananda. Jamgon Control Rinpoche. That was my my Tibetan master for a while.
It was interesting proofreading some of those names. You know, when they go in the book, it's one thing to look in our SEER database. It's another thing to figure out how the heck you spell some of these things. So, all right, I think we're needing to be kicked out here. But Gilles, I really appreciate working on the book with you. It was a lot of fun. It's available in bookstores, obviously, and online. We'll have a few copies here, and we'll take orders. And any last words?
I was really surprised. Every time I spoke, Greg wrote it. It just seemed to. I didn't need to tell him to change things. It was just perfect in translating my state of mind. He's very talented, and I thank you.
Woohoo! There's a good plug.